Welcome to the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast, powered by StatRoute.com. And now, here's your host, Ryan Skullroot.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullroot. I am your host. And on tonight's show, we've got the first few previews of the games for this week. We'll start off with the Thursday Night Football game, go through the London game, and do a few more from Sunday. We will be doing the rest of these on Saturday and releasing a Saturday show with some a little more up-to-date information in terms of injuries and that sort of thing to have you guys plenty prepared for your matchups this weekend. So why don't we go ahead and we will get, there aren't really any announcements other than to say, please hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the podcast, whether you are watching on YouTube, listening on Apple or Google Play, Stitcher, no matter where. We would really love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, leave us a rating and review, help us to know how to better help you guys with your fantasy lineups. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and go right into the headlines. Starting it off, Todd Gurley did not practice today, being Wednesday. Did not practice with a quad injury. This is something to kind of wait and see how it's doing. Does not have anything to do with the arthritis in his knee. That being said, it's still something to watch. Maybe see if Malcolm Brown is still on the waiver wire to possibly pick up as free agent. Definitely something to monitor if you have Gurley or you have some space on your bench. Tyreek Hill was limited in practice with his shoulder today. I believe Patrick Mahomes was also limited, but I don't think they're not gonna sit Patrick Mahomes. They're still trying to see how Tyreek Hill is doing with his shoulder injury. It is quite possible, from what I have seen, that he is going to play this weekend in a game that's likely to be a shootout between the Texans and the Chiefs, since neither team's DBs can play all that well. Getting into the Thursday Night Football game before we kind of preview it, Philip Dorsett has already been declared out. Six other New England Patriots have been declared questionable, including Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, and Rex Burkhead. So the Patriots are dealing with that. And then you've got the New York Giants, who are going to be down Barkley and Gallman, as well as Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard. So their top two receivers, really, and their top two running backs all out. And that does not leave a whole lot of options for Daniel Jones to work with going up against right now what's the number one defense in fantasy. So so this could be a really ugly game. I'm also seeing, I've heard that the weather for this game is actually supposed to be pretty nasty. Let me see the weather forecast. Oh, now it's not pulling it up. The weather forecast, from what I've seen, is supposed to be windy and rainy. In terms of the weather during game time, I've seen reports of gusts up to 30 miles an hour, which is not going to make passing the ball very easy. Could be a lot of handoffs, and if it's really, really rainy, this could be a nasty turnover-soaked game. So you're likely to start Brady simply because he can still be effective, with the dump-offs and everything. But I would favor the running backs in this game. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it, unless it's the Giants. So moving on, Hunter Henry was limited in practice with his knee injury. They're hoping to get him back soon. It doesn't, as far as I can see, I don't think he'll play this week. I believe it's at home against Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. But he may be able to come back the week after, depending on how his recovery goes. According to Jameis Winston, it will be a collective effort to get Mike Evans more involved in the offense. to win football games, we have to get Mike Evans the ball. I would agree with that. I think that Mike Evans is getting a lot of attention from top corners, and because of that, that's part of the reason why Godwin is going off. It's also that Godwin's a very talented wide receiver, and so it's not surprising that he's having. To me, it's not surprising he's having the year that he has. I think that they will work to get Jameis Winston, or will work to get Mike Evans the ball more. The problem is Jameis Winston tends to be the type of quarterback who only targets one receiver at a time per game. And so whether it's, a running back or, well, it hasn't been O.J. Howard this year, that's for sure, or Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, we'll kind of see this is making me more and more concerned that Jameis Winston is basically a one-look quarterback. He looks at one guy, throws it to him every time. Does not go really through progressions all that much. So that being said, if you are a Mike Evans owner like I am, hold on. If you are a guy needing some wide receiver help, I would say possibly try to see if you can buy low on Mike Evans, and see where it goes from there. So let's see. TJ Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions is still in the concussion protocol. We'll see when he can finally come back after the really rough hit that he took a couple weeks ago. And Josh Rosen has been announced as the starting quarterback for the remaining of 2019 for the Miami Dolphins. So we won't have to worry about Fitzmagic or Fitztragic, whatever you want to call him, unless something actually happens to Josh Rosen. A couple other minor things. Christian McCaffrey set out with looks like some back stiffness from practice today. I'm not worried about him playing this weekend. Sources say the Redskins are expecting to start Case Keenum this week, assuming his foot injury allows him. So Colt McCoy back to the bench. I believe in my last podcast, I mentioned the fact that the Redskins brass, now that Jay Gruden is gone, does not believe that Haskins is ready yet for playing in the NFL at all. He's having problems calling the plays in the huddle, having problems reading defenses, even in practice. So for now, it's going to be Case Keenum, which, in my opinion, especially this week, going up against the non-existent Miami defense, this is really good for Terry McLaurin owners. I think that he could have a really, really good game this week. Now that he seems to be fully back and healthy. As long as Case Keenum's the quarterback, I think that McLaurin's in for a good week, as well as Chris Thompson. We'll see. I know that they want to get back in the running game, so this could also be a big thing for Adrian Peterson moving forward. Sammy Watkins did not practice Wednesday with his hamstring injury. Antonio Brown has encouraged the Pats to re-sign him since they're going to have to pay him anyways. That's not going to happen. Deshaun Jackson is still out for the Eagles. Because of this, there is a lot of speculation and rumors that the Eagles have reached out to the Browns to see about the availability of Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think the Browns will trade him yet, but it's very possible. They're seeing where their season's gone. After they most likely, as a Seahawks fan, I'm hoping and praying, most likely lose to Seattle this weekend in Cleveland and go to, I believe, 2-4 at that point. It's very likely that they could start trading off pieces. So, and one last thing, tough break for Chris Herndon, who just came off of suspension this week, has a hamstring injury. He did it Friday when running routes on his own. Gase did not sound optimistic about his chances of playing this week for the Jets. And so I think that the Jets could use every weapon that they have against the Dallas defense. We'll kind of see how that goes. As of right now, though, they're definitely down Chris Herndon for this weekend. So real quick, we're going to play a quick ad read, play a quick ad read, and then we will hop right into the first 6 games of this week, given the previews and my fantasy analysis on what I think could possibly happen. Have your fantasy teams been struggling this year? Or perhaps you've been doing pretty well but want to put yourself over the top? Then make sure to visit our friends over at Finish First Fantasy Advisors. They are the premier one-on-one consulting firm that specializes in providing you with expert support to help guide you to the championship. You will be matched with one of their expert advisors to provide you with the season-long insight for your redraft, dynasty, or DFS formats. Their advisors will contact you weekly to answer all of your questions and provide you the needed information to get to the next level. Set up a free 15-minute consultation by emailing them at info@finishfirstfantasy.com or by visiting them at www.finishfirstfantasy.com. That's www.finishfirstfantasy.com. All right, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. Starting with Thursday Night Football. The Giants versus the Patriots. So here's the deal. I've got Daniel Jones as a quarterback 2. Simply because I don't think he's going to have very many people to throw to. John Hillman I have as a running back 4, really 3 or 4. I think there's going to be so much that the Patriots are going to be able to do against this offense that has no weapons, really. Golden Tate I have as a wide receiver 3/flex. That's all I've got for him. And simply that's because he's going to be the only guy to throw to other than Rhett Ellison, who I think he'll be a tight end 2, could possibly put up low-end tight end 1 numbers out of desperation because, again, there's only so many people now that Daniel Jones can throw the ball to, especially against this stingy Patriots defense. Also, looking at the weather that's supposed to be happening in this game, that's going to make it that much harder. As for the Patriots, Brady, I have right now as a mid-range quarterback 1. I may move him down to a low-end quarterback 1 simply because of the fact of the weather that may try to rely again on the run game. We'll see. I have both Michelle and White kind of on that running back 2 to running back 3 threshold, right around that 28 to 30 range. And again, a lot of that has to do with the weather. Edelman and Gordon are both questionable. Edelman I have as a wide receiver 2, Gordon as a wide receiver 3. If you're looking for a sneaky play in DFS for Thursday night, if you have a Thursday night lineup, I think a sneaky play in DFS could possibly be Jacoby Myers. He is likely to get some work, especially with Philip Dorsett out. So, all right, moving on. The first game on Sunday at the ripe old hour of 6:30 in the morning, at least for me on the West Coast, 9:30 in the morning for the East Coast. This is one of the few times that the East Coast gets to know what it's like to be on the West Coast with all these early games. The Panthers at the Buccaneers playing in London. I have Kyle Allen against this Buccaneers defense as a quarterback 2 with a lot of upside. Could end up as a high-end quarterback 2. Again, the Buccaneers defense has given up a lot of plays to the in the secondary to quarterbacks, and so I think that this could be a possibly very good matchup for them. Christian McCaffrey, I still have as a running back 1. I know that the Buccaneers defense really shut him down in the game in Carolina. This is in London. The Buccaneers defense has struggled a little bit more the last couple weeks, so I am much more confident that Christian McCaffrey is going to put up a good game. He's the number 1 rusher right now. Well, he's number 1 in overall yards. I know that for sure. So I think that this will be another solid performance for him, catching the ball out of the backfield as well as running it. DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel I have both as wide receiver 3s. Olsen as a low-end tight end 1. As far as the Buccaneers go, Winston I have as a low-end quarterback 1. Again, the Panthers have struggled a little bit in the pass defense, giving up some big plays. Ronald Jones I have at max a flex play. The Panthers, the run defense has been okay. It's their pass defense that struggled a bit. And as far as the receivers go, I have Godwin as a mid-range wide receiver 2 and Evans as a low-end wide receiver 2, simply because Godwin's the one that's getting the targets right now. So last time I saw, I believe you can find it on the Fantasy Life app. They had a breakdown of the snap percentage over the last, or sorry, target percentage over the last 4 games. Total targets over the last 4 games, I want to say that Godwin has been out-targeted or has out-targeted Evans by 5 or 6 targets. I want to say it's like 35 to 29, 36 to 30, somewhere in that range. So Godwin getting more likely to get the targets. And O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, again, they're boomer bust low-end tight end 2s. We'll see if they can actually get them involved. Right now, the focus is to get Evans involved in the offense. We'll kind of see where it goes with the tight ends from there. Moving on, the next game, the Bengals at the Ravens. I think that this will be another bloodbath for the Ravens defense going up against the Bengals. Dalton, I have as a mid to low quarterback 2. I don't see him putting up a ton against this Ravens defense. Joe Mixon, I have as a low-end running back 2, possibly even a running back 3. Again, this offensive line just has not been able to open up the holes for Mixon to be productive, and so I'm still down on him until he can prove me otherwise. Boyd, I have as a wide receiver 2, Auden Tate as a wide receiver 3, simply because they may need to be passing the ball in order to play catch-up, and Tyler Eifert as a possible high-end tight end 2. Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, I have as a quarterback 1. Ingram is a solid running back 2. Marquise Brown, he's back and forth on that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range. He's kind of a boomer bust, still trying to figure out exactly how he's going to be regularly used. He has been dealing with, I believe it's an ankle injury, so we'll kind of see. Mark Andrews is questionable, but he's going to play. He's been dealing with this ankle injury for most of the season and still been putting up pretty solid numbers. Moving on, the next game, the Seahawks at the Cleveland Browns. Wilson, obviously, I believe, is a quarterback 1. I think that he is going to continue to put up solid numbers against this Browns defense. Now, their top 2 corners, I believe it's Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward, at this point are day-to-day, which means that they possibly could play this Sunday. That being said, with the way that the Seahawks have been using the play-action pass, establishing the run, and how much the Cleveland Browns struggled stopping the run from San Francisco, I think that the Seahawks should be set up pretty well for this game. Carson, I have on the edge of running back 1, running back 2, kind of in that 10 to 13 range. Lockett, I have as a wide receiver 2. DK Metcalf as a boomer bust wide receiver 3. Will Dissly, I also have as a tight end 1, especially after seeing what George Kittle did to the Cleveland defense this last week. Baker Mayfield as a quarterback 2. I think that he could possibly put up high-end quarterback 2, low-end quarterback 1 numbers. The defensive secondary for the Seahawks has struggled a bit. Of course, they've also struggled against, in my opinion, much better quarterbacks. And so, as long as they can get to Baker, Baker's going to struggle. Nick Chubb, I still think, because of his ability to catch the ball in the backfield, is a low-end running back 1. OBJ, I have as a mid to high wide receiver 2. Landry as I think I may bump him up to a low-end wide receiver 2 from wide receiver 3, just based on he tends to be kind of that slot kind of guy who can be kind of a safety net. They don't really have a tight end that can do that on a regular basis, and so I think for the most part that could work out in Landry's favor in this game against Seattle. So moving on, the next game, the Saints at the Jaguars. Teddy Bridgewater I have as a quarterback 2. I know that he put up solid numbers this last week, was quarterback 1 or 2 with the numbers that he put up. That being said, the Jaguars are a much better defense, and they'll be playing in Jacksonville. Kamara I have as a running back 1 just because of his ability to get loose, not only in the pass game but also in the running game. Michael Thomas, I have him as a low-end wide receiver 1 going up against Jalen Ramsey, as long as Jalen Ramsey is healthy. and actually plays. I know he started practicing. He's been dealing with the back issue. That's something to watch. Cook, Jared Cook, I have as a high-end tight end too. Still, just we haven't seen the consistency in the pass game to Jared Cook this season. He's had 1 or 2 games of the 5 so far. It's kind of been back and forth. So, as far as the Jaguars go, the Saints have given up a lot of points to the quarterback. I want to say they've given up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So Gardner Minshew, I have as that low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2, could put up solid numbers. Leonard Fournette has been absolutely solid this year. He has proven me wrong so far. Really, I've never doubted his talent. It's his ability to stay healthy. So far, he's stayed healthy. Not only that, since week 2, he is 5th in the league in terms of running backs in targets with 24 since week 2, behind guys like Austin Eckler and Christian McCaffrey. So, pretty interesting to see how much he's been used in the pass game. As far as the wide receivers go, DJ Chark keeps getting called the wide receiver 3, and yet he's after 5 weeks, he is the number 5 wide receiver in half-point PPR. We'll kind of see who guards who. If Marshawn Lattimore is on DJ Chark, he may put up mid to low wide receiver 2 numbers. D.D. Westbrook, I still find as a kind of a boomer bust wide receiver 3, just because he still doesn't seem to have that same rapport with Gardner Minshew that Chark has, and with what they've been doing. So, one more game we want to cover in this podcast. The Texans at the Chiefs. I was doing my show with Scott Morganroth of the South Florida Tribune Radio Network, and we do a fantasy football podcast between the two of us every week. And this was the game that I thought this could just be an absolute shootout. I think this game could be a lot of fun to watch. Watson obviously is a quarterback 1. In terms of the running backs, it's Hyde and Duke Johnson. I have them as running back 3s. I don't necessarily see them being involved in the running game much. I think that both defenses could struggle, and could very well give up a ton of points in this one. I know the Chiefs are going to want to get their offense back in gear after the disappointing week last week against the Colts. Hopkins I have as a wide receiver 1. Fuller is still kind of that wide receiver 2 to 3 range. He's kind of that 26 to 28 or 26 to 29. Almost that wide receiver 3, simply because we have to see how much he's actually. I'm actually part of that target share thing that I was telling you guys about earlier. I believe because of the 16 targets or whatever it was that he got last week, I believe that Will Fuller may actually be out targeting DeAndre Hopkins over the last 4 weeks. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. I think that Hopkins does have a decent game in this one, though. They have 2 tight ends in Houston. I don't know who to trust, so I'm leaving both of them as tight end 2s because I don't know who's actually going to get the work. Moving on to the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, obviously quarterback 1. McCoy and Williams, I have as Williams is the running back 2. McCoy is the running back 3. Last week, McCoy had 2 catches and was not involved in the run game whatsoever, especially after his fumble. Damian Williams, as long as he's healthy, I think could be a running back 2. He's used more in the run game, plus is also used in the pass game. So Tyreek Hill, if he plays, Tyreek Hill, I think, is a high-end wide receiver 2 with the upside, obviously, to be a wide receiver 1. I may put him, again, if he plays in that 10 to 12 range, just because we're not sure how healthy he's going to be, if they're going to limit his snaps or anything like that. So as far as the committee behind Hill of Hardman, Watkins, and Demarcus Robinson, I have them all as boomer bust wide receiver 3s. We just don't know who's going to be the guy to do it this next week. So, and obviously Travis Kelce is a tight end 1. All right, that's it. That's it for this show. Again, I will do another show on Saturday early Saturday morning to release for you guys so that you will have the rest of the games and kind of my thoughts and everything on that. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful weekend, that Thursday night, whoever you have playing in the Thursday night game, performs well, and that you guys have a great week. My name is Ryan Skulrud. This has been the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast, and we will talk to you guys later. Hey, SkullKing Nation. Thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.